Joe, Dr. Energy Piazza.
Rara is in the house. Hello, everyone. So great
Hello,
to be
everybody.
here. We have lots to talk about today. Let's see what we can
Yeah,
do in 1 minute. 1 minute sprints. Want to do it?
absolutely. And thank you, Xanthi, for posting your link there. That's great.
Dr. Energy, let's do this. I'm going to time myself. I'm going to do an introduction, and you let me know if it
Okay, let me
sucks
gi- let
or
me
not.
give you let me give you the spotlight. Hang on a sec. All right, whenever you're ready, set, go.
Rara is in the house. My name is Catherine Asaro Myers. I am the proud co-owner of BU Network. A little known fact about me is that I have a family of Sicilians from New York, and they are one crazy group. My partner, Dr. Energy, and I are passionate about what we do and who we do it with. If you would like to have any information about getting your voice heard, we have some new things that we're launching. Check in with us at BU Network. Ciao. All right, so you want to go next?
All right.
I'll tell you
Ready?
when.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever and whenever you are. Joe, Dr. Energy Piazza, co-visionary, co-founder, co-creator, co-editor, co-everything of BU Network. We are creating podcasts, videos, live streams, and courses to powerfully present. Now, I'd like you to take a moment and just be here with me. We're going to pause. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just feel your belly get big as you breathe in through your nose. And then feel it get small as you breathe out through your mouth. And now we can be you. How
Nailed
long was
it.
that?
Nailed it. 57 seconds and 57.68. You are the ding ding winner.
So
Let's
isn't it amazing how much you can actually say and connect in 60 seconds?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So let's talk about different types of introductions, if you may, if we
Sure.
will, if we may.
If we may, if we can, if you'll
Yes.
allow.
So if we're introducing ourselves on our own network, then we are assuming that some people have had some information about where they're going and they may not know us. So we're going to tell a little bit about ourselves. So I'll put 2 or 3 scenarios out there and then we can talk about it. Another scenario is we're meeting someone for the very first time on a one-to-one perhaps, and we don't know much about them unless we've done some background work. And the other is we're in a networking Zoom room and there are a whole bunch of people and we're given a time slot to say something. So let's talk about if you're coming to our show. So Xanthi will speak to that. When you're coming to our show in a minute, it makes sense to talk real quick about who we are. So that way we can get into the meat of what it is, or vegetarian of what it is that we're doing. And that way we can
Or
say
vegan.
vegan. I was thinking my cousin
Vegan.
only eats fish. Yeah, right. Exactly. So we could talk about us, who we are. We can talk about our geographic location. I have a tag. I'm branded as Rara. Rara is in the house. I do that with a little bit of a pause. And most of the times when I say Rara is in the house is finished by somebody that knows me, even in their head, if they're not saying it out loud. And so that's my brand. I walk in with my brand, and then I get to say something. Usually it's something different every single time. So if you're coming to our show, you don't want to hear the same thing all the time. You'll hear a different intro. Sometimes Dr. Energy and I introduce one another or ourselves. So in your own live show, it's a really good idea to say who you are, put your brand out there, and tell a little story about why you're here doing what you're doing. Dr. Energy, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. No, it's the setting is so important and can determine, as Rara mentioned, how you end up introducing yourself or not introducing yourself. And when you're on a live video or a recorded video, we can do things like having our name on screen or putting up a banner of BU Network, Conversations Worth Having. It's our tagline. You can put a link to a website. So we can introduce ourselves in a slightly different way. And that lends to a lot of creativity. Have fun. If it's in your nature to have fun and, educate and entertain, as we like to call it, edutainment. And I know that other people have used that as well. Edutain as you are introducing yourself, then do that. If that's not in your style, don't do it that way. But find out what works for you and how you can be more of yourself. As David Foster and the Partial Geek says, be unapologetically you as you introduce yourself. Introduce yourself as you. Don't put on airs. You can pump up some of your own attributes, some of your uniqueness, and kind of inflate that or pump that up a little bit. Especially on video, we almost need to be 150% energy just to get an 80 to 90% energy connection with people. If we are on video the same way we are one-on-one with people, we might not bring enough energy to transmit that through the camera. So, pump up your energy a little bit more.
Okay, so we'll talk, that's a couple of points about being on our own show. Now we'll go on to the next scenario where we're meeting someone for the first time. So some people might call it a discovery call. I call it an audition. We call it discover, and well, we have different things. Yep. Connect with us. So when you're meeting someone for the first time, now these days at this moment, especially with time zone differences, we're on a video chat. Think about what you want to do if you have 15 or 20 minutes. Right. Calculate how you want to do that. So maybe that's not a time to be mysterious, but you might in your discovery pre-connection say, what would you like me to know about you before our call? And if that person gives us a link or information, we will go and do our due diligence. So when we get onto the call, we'll say, hi, Xanthi, it's so awesome to meet you. I love your lives. I got on a few of them before we met with you, and I love your white headset, and I totally love your white mic, and I am enamored with your background. I love red. And I can now start to make that connection with you because I asked you for something, and I'm going to start in strong with a compliment because I feel it. And I'm going to go with that. And then, of course, I'll introduce myself. So if you get a chance to have some background and it's one-to-one, it makes an impact instead of doing the Blake Sheldon thing, me, because that's not really going to win too many friends. So in a one-to-one setting, I'll make that recommendation. Dr. Energy, would you like to give another one?
Sure. If you're going to ask somebody if there's something that they would like you to know about them, and they share something with you, make sure you take the time to look at it, consume it, take it in, and then you can be able to give them something back. Such as, hey, I really love the way your voice sounds with that microphone in your live stream or your recorded video. I really love your overall background. I can really get a sense of who you are. Or comment specifically on something that you heard in one of their whatever content it is that you're consuming, whether if it's reading something or watching something or listening to something. And then that makes that person feel heard, feel seen, feel understood. And it just builds that connection with them because they're going to feel like, hey, they asked for something to consume, I gave it to them, and they actually did go and watch it or read it or listen to it. So that's really important because if you then get back to them and say, oh, I didn't actually have time to get to looking at it, then they're going to, well, they didn't have time to it. So how important am I really?
Good point. One more thing on that before we move to the next. I usually ask people who is their avatar. So we want to know who your avatar is. And if you say, I don't know, then we know that that could be part of a conversation in the future.
Right.
So I ask questions. We ask questions that will give us a greater in-depth insight to who you are focusing on in your business. Okay, let's talk about number 3, introducing ourselves in a large room. So this is where I want to talk about this takeaway technique. We have 20 people in a room, 3 pages, or 25 people, a couple of pages. And now we want to say something about ourselves. And we're listening. Wow, I'm in a room full of podcasters and streamers and content creators. And everybody's saying, I'm a podcaster, I'm a content creator, and everyone's great. But yet we want to stand out. We might, in fact, not say so much. I will say less. But I'll walk into the room, I'll use my brand. And then I might say something like, let me tell you a story about what happened this morning. 5 o'clock in the morning, I needed to buy conditioner. And I spent $160 at the checkout US before my feet hit the ground at 5 a.m. because I am committed to having nice hair. So if you would like to know a little bit more about how to make your checkout smoother, get in touch with me. I will tell that story, especially if it's true. And that was a true story. And I think about it. 4:30, 4:45 a.m., I'm buying 1 bottle of conditioner, but of course, at the same time, I bought a few more things. So I tell a real story. So I'll say less about me, but something that will resonate. And if it's a room full of people who don't have long hair, I may not tell that story. But I will look at the room and I will tell a story that I think will be impactful. So I will say less about me, give a story, because my tagline is, I am an audacious storyteller. Back to you, Dr. Energy.
Oh, that's very, very powerful. Another technique that you can do, and let me just make sure I'm on the right line here, networking to a large room. Right. Okay. So another technique that you can use is to actually introduce somebody else. And it may be somebody that you do business with. It may be somebody else that's in the room. And you could use the technique that Catherine just shared about telling a story about an interaction or a problem that somebody in the room solved. So you're making it about somebody else. You're being a giver. You're giving value to somebody else. So if there's somebody in the room that you have done business with and they helped you solve a problem, you could tell a story like, for example, since we're going to talk about Xanthi a little bit, I don't want to make you blush, but here we go. When we created our BU Network website, we have been using WordPress. And I had a question for Xanthi on one of her live streams about how to maybe make more than one category as a blog. And she answered it on stream. And it was really, really helpful. And it helped me solve a problem that I had. Even with the experience that I have with WordPress, she has a lot more experience than I do. And so she helped me solve a problem that I had. So if you have a problem with WordPress and building your website to market your business, chat with Xanthi because she can help you out.
Hit the unmute button. That's a great point. I'll tell you another true story. Alex McCarsky and I went to, remember Le Tip? So we were in Le Tip many years ago. We were in a room with 250 people, and it was time for Alex to introduce himself. And he chose to stand up and talk about the fact that he was a hockey dad and that he was looking for a hockey coach for his son. And in that moment, at his same table, someone actually, I think it was very near to him, stood up and said, I have somebody who can do that. So here was the opportunity where Alex could have talked about his referral business and what he was doing and getting business for himself. And he went with a live story and made a connection. And that was so powerful because most people in the room were like, what are you talking about? Who are you? So we all remembered him. And these true stories are very impactful. I'll go with one more part. I walked into a networking group in Newmarket, if you know where Newmarket is, and I
north of Toronto, for those who don't
know. We needed snow tires, and I walked into the group called Pro at that time, and I said I needed snow tires, and I thought I'm going to go to this networking group, and I'm going to be able to find someone because we were new to the area. $1,200 later, I walked out of the meeting saying, yes, I found someone to go and spend $1,200 with.
Right.
And I took the opportunity in that networking room, that was live at that time, face to face.
Right.
We can do it and say, this is what I am looking for. And someone comes right to you. So they'll remember you by what did Maya Angelou say? People will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel.
Right. And that's such an important thing. I mean, remember, like you said, imagine walking into a networking event of 250 people and everybody stands up. Hi, my name is, my business is, and I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. And even in a room of 20 people, after the first, 3, maybe 2, if you're really ADHD or ADD, maybe 5 at best, you're going to tune out because everybody's saying the same thing and nothing is standing out. And so you want to stand out in the room. So how can you do it authentically, as unapologetically you? Being true to yourself and standing out. And that's really what we're talking about here. Be you.
In a 1-minute presentation, make a mental note of the things that you would like to say. You want to say your name or your brand. You want to tell something about yourself. I like to tell stories. That you want to give people a way to reach you or say how they can reach you. And I have a format that I followed with a really interesting group in the States. They set a format for me. Okay, let's start all over again. Hello, my name is Rara. So this is from my other company. Sorry, let me start this over. This is from my other company that I wrote this, so you'll forgive me for talking about, you won't forgive me. You'll just hear what I have to say. Hello, everyone. My name is Rara. I am the founder and CEO of The Bridge. Our main focus is on action-oriented behavior and people who want to monetize a new concept or reframe a current program. I am passionate about love stories, and my family consists of Sicilians from New York. A little known fact about me is that I'm building and getting the word out about my podcast. The best way you can learn about me is b-u.network. Thank you. All right, Dr. Energy. That's the format. You're muted. That's the format that we were given. So we were given the context and said, fill in the blanks. What do you think about that?
That was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
So 1 minute, and then, you say your name, you talk about who you are, you give your main focus, you talk about a new concept, you say what you're passionate about, you say something about your family and a little known fact, and you end, in this case, with a link. And at the end, you can always say, looking forward to seeing you.
Right.
So that's a 1 minute intro. And you should be able to pause and breathe in that.
And even within those structures, because different, depending on different networking groups, they will have different ways of introducing yourself. They will have different formats. You can still be creative within the structures of what they've asked for. And so when you can do that, that starts to stand out as memorable. It's going to take some effort and some time to craft those introductions. And is it worth putting in the work? You tell me. At the last networking meeting you went to, how many people did you remember or did you find memorable and want to connect with based on their 30-second or 60-second introduction?
Oh, let me ask you this. How many people booked with you? So this exercise this exercise that I just did, it was an exercise for a written intro. So let me preface this. David Fagan gave this to us in JV
Top Talent.
Let me give this shout out to Top Talent JV Mastermind. Yep. So this was so that everybody would put their link and something about themselves. It had to include a link because it was a written intro. And I used it for a 1-minute speaking intro, which was then part of a mastermind where you go in and you use it to introduce yourself. So there was actually a Facebook page, and everybody's intro had the same format. So very similar to what we do with our bio. When you're a podcast guest of us, we ask you to fill out 200 words so that all of our show notes are the same format and it all looks very uniform. So David Fagan gave this exercise to us. And what I really like about it is when I walked into a room, that's how I met Tony Lombardo. When I said my family consists of Sicilians from New York, we were texting each other within a nanosecond. So when I was done speaking, I posted this as my intro. Think about, you say something impactful and then someone says to put it in the chat and you put nothing impactful. You just like blah, you blow it there, like you just lose it. So if you walk into the room and you say something awesome, you want to be able to go with that digital, that visual, that auditory digital, and the kinesthetic. You want to make sure that you hit everybody up with your impactful introduction. Write it out, see what it looks like.
And if you don't know how to do a video, create a video easy for me to say. If you don't know how to create a video introduction, it might be a good reason to connect with us because we can help you with that as well. So I don't know where I was going with that.
All right, you were
my brain
going
just went
to
bleh.
Create a toolkit. Send us a video of your introduction. Put an introduction in the chat. That's okay. I got you back.
Yes, that's what a team is for, to help each other out, right? So
right.
so post a video on if you don't know how to get a video to us, you might need to connect with us. If you don't know how to share videos with people of yourself, that's an even bigger problem, right? So
well, either use your phone or click Zoom, and then you have to know where you save it. Then you have to go and find it.
Well, where do you store it, and how do you send the link, right? So for those of us in the know, those of us in the guild, they know, right? You could have it unlisted or a private video on YouTube or in your Google Drive, and then you can send a link to it or share a link directly. But some people don't know how to do that, so.
I'm having a consistent wardrobe malfunction today, so you're going to see me doing the thing I always say don't do. I'm like, just be in front of the camera, be you, don't move, let it be. And I'm just going to leave it.
You can't sit still. I can't sit still. So just be you. Don't worry about it. If you got to fix your wardrobe, fix it. I play with my shirt and my bracelets and stuff
all the time, right?
So.
Well, Carolyn Jackson said the other day that for our spine, and you can talk to this, that it's better if we sit at the edge of our chair and not slouch and keep our back straight. So when in lieu of having a really good posture, because that's what you want us to do, not bring our neck down and bring our head up. So how should we sit when we're in front of the camera doing an intro about ourselves, Dr. Energy?
How do we sit when we're in front of camera? So actually, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, anticipating. So what it does when you sit on the edge of the seat, and especially if you have a footrest underneath so that your knees are slightly higher than your hips, it puts your weight centered over your pelvis much more effectively. You actually sit on the bones of the pelvis that you're supposed to. In yoga, they call them the sit bones. They're the iliac. Easy for me to say. Yes, I'm trained in anatomy, and I'm struggling with the anatomy names today. So we'll just skip right past that. You sit on your sit bones more effectively, and then your spine lines up over top of it with the proper curves in your back. There's a spine. I don't know if you can see it behind me, just over my shoulder there, beside the bookcase. One of these days, I'll pull it out. And so your spine lines up more effectively. So what should happen is when your pelvis is sitting, you have a curve in this direction, so you would be facing this way. Your lumbar spine will have a curve in the opposite direction. The mid-back or thoracic spine will then curve in the same direction as the pelvis, and then your neck will have the opposite curve to the thoracic, but the same as the lumbars down here. And then by setting your camera at eye level, your neck and your head can stay aligned over top of your shoulders. Because if our camera is too low, we end up looking down like this, and that puts a lot of stress on the muscles in the back of your neck. Or if it's too high, we end up sitting like this. We also end up sitting like this if we sit back, because then we slouch. And so our pelvis then tucks under, and then our lumbar spine goes from having this curve to reversing. And that's not a healthy way. It puts a lot of strain on the muscles of your back. And then if you sit that way for a long time, all of a sudden you go to stand up and your muscles of the low back go into spasm. And that's not good.
Well, thank you for that. We're all over the
Check
place.
it out. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. I don't need a Go XLR to do funny voices.
Oh, save yourself $1,500 bucks.
I just saved myself $700 Canadian. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
I still want the buttons.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I know you want all the buttons. I know.
I want the buttons. Oh man, I'm just a button pusher.
So there was so Xanthi had a question earlier in the chat about, are there specific more powerful words or languaging that we can use when we're introducing ourselves? So if you'd like to.
Sure. I like to go with my who I am. I like to be me. I have a few words that resonate with me. So I go with the brands. I use my voice. I like to have a really crystal clear voice. So I make a point of making sure that when I can, without bending over my mic, that my impact comes from the sound. And the words that I use are based on the tone and the rhythm that I would like you to be drawn into. Does that answer your question?
Have to press the button twice sometimes. That's a great answer. And I'd like to just add to that. For me, what I like to do is before I introduce myself, in fact, even before I get to the networking meeting, and I do it right even before I get out of bed in the morning, is my focus. I ask myself the question is, who do I get to empower in greatness today? And how many? And how can I do that? And please, and then I just say a small prayer saying, please help me deliver the message that's going to empower greatness in the most people today. And then I go from there. So I infuse whatever I'm doing that day with that energy. And then I reinforce that right before I stand up and introduce myself as well. One other thing that I like to do is avoid words such as but or just or try. They're kind of what I call weasel words, right? I just want to. Well, that sounds like, it says, I'm here to empower greatness in you. So how does that, so if I say, I'm here to empower greatness in you versus I just want to empower greatness in you, how does that sound and land differently for you? Those are words. And but, when we use but, it negates the words that went before. So I really love being here, but I just want to say that.
Yeah.
And that just negated everything that I said. I love being here. And that lands in our unconscious mind, oftentimes. So if you'd like to, connect with us and get on our email list so you know what is coming up, what are topics, and get reminded as well of our lives, you can head over here to b-u.network/pro and put your email and first name in there. And you're actually going to get, in addition to email reminders, you'll actually get access to 7 mini courses on how to start presenting powerfully like a professional. It's just some of the tips that we put together based on our years of experience in presenting.
Our many years of experience.
Yes, between the two of us.
How many?
70 plus.
We look so good for our ages.
Yes. I'll just leave it at that.
We were networking in diapers.
Yeah.
When you're a Sicilian, you have to network in your family to get through that whole family thing. So we started young.
So, yes, we did. And it's something that it's been a lifelong pursuit for us, for sure. All right, we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao, and we'll see you on the other side.